The gospel today and really the other reading are, in a way, all about generosity. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you all are very generous. Well, not literally the choir. We don't have a choir here, but generosity is not just giving. What these readings are talking about are generosity of spirit. Think of Elijah, the greatest of all the prophets, arguably. And Elisha, his understudy, says, I want a double portion of your spirit, of your powers. He said, that's a hard thing. For him to even pray to God, to ask him, let him be an even greater prophet than me, a more powerful prophet than me, took a generosity of spirit. You think about what the gospel talks about when you're giving alms. Don't let your right hand know what your left hand's doing. It's not about, I just gave $100. It's about giving from the heart. And sometimes giving from the heart isn't about money at all. It's about giving of ourselves. It's the generosity of biting your tongue when someone at home is saying something for the 15th time that you're tired of hearing. It's the generosity of not snapping at someone when they're being snappy with you. Sometimes it's the generosity of not just of what we give, but of how we give. Pope Francis said when you're giving alms, giving money to somebody on a street corner who may be homeless or something like that, it's a good thing to give them a few dollars if you feel it's appropriate. But look them in the eye. To let them know that it's just not a handout. It's not just checking something off that, well, I did that for God today. It's about letting them know that they're human. One time I was in downtown Pittsburgh and there was a young woman who was asking for money and she was kind of out of it. And in a little bit of arrogance, thinking, I know all this homeless stuff, down pat. And I said, I can't give you cash. And she said, well, why? I just need a few dollars. And I said, well, I don't know what you're going to use the money for. And she said, she hiked down the corner of her pants and she said, I just need to buy some Pampers. She said, I have a problem. And she started to cry and I felt like this big. And I said, don't go away. What size do you wear? I went over to the store and bought them and brought them back to her. And we sat on the steps at PPG Place downtown. And she told me about how she was so confused because she hasn't been taking her medicine. She was schizophrenic. And that she went to the hospital to get her medicine and they were mean to her. And she said, I'm not going back there. And I said, but you have to go back, just give them another chance. Maybe they were having a bad day. I was asking her to be generous of spirit, even when it didn't make sense. But so often we have to be careful to check our prejudices, our feelings and things. If someone is in the food pantry line and they drive up and their car is kind of nice, you don't know if they just got laid off. You don't know if they borrowed that car from their next door neighbor. We don't know all the circumstances of people's lives. It's so important that we're generous of heart. And even beyond that, we have to be generous with our time, which is the greatest resource we have. Sometimes making a phone call to somebody who's in a nursing home, a distant relative or an old neighbor, someone we keep thinking, no, I got to call that person, or I wonder how they're doing, could make all the difference in their day. It may be an inconvenience for us for 15 minutes, but might make their day. Something that simple. I know even sharing people is difficult. I know a lot of people were upset when Father Mac left and went up north to Newcastle. I heard this past weekend, he does parking lot masses, like a drive-in in a big, I think it's a Sears parking lot, because I don't think any of their churches are big enough to hold a big crowd. Someone told me he did 3,000 mass for 3,000 people this weekend. There aren't many people, many priests in the diocese that could pull that off. And so you're sharing him with them is a gift to God. Your generosity has been shown so many times during this pandemic, and just on behalf of all of us, thank you for all you do, and not just all you do, but how you do it with a cheerful and generous heart. God bless you all.